Welcome back to She Said What, the podcast. I am here with one of my favourite humans in the world, Dom Poole. How are you today?
Thanks, Caitlin. I'm great.
Fucking good. Are you going to ask me how I am?
We were speaking telepathically. I didn't want to break the fourth wall. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. Thanks for asking. Isn't that such a weird response where you're just like, I'm great?
Yeah, I usually feel like I pay people out for that, or I notice it when I go into a store and do that.
Yes.
And I say, "Oh, how you going?" They're just like, "Good."
It's like that awkward blink.
Yeah.
You're like, okay. Anyway.
I did ask her how she was like a minute ago, so.
Liar. No, I'm just kidding. I wanted to get you in because you have a really cool story about a car crash that changed your life, a bit of a brain injury, so many different things. Can you please, I guess, tell us that, share that with us?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like car crash is a cool one because it's got all that sort of
It's a cool trauma.
really cool. That whole meaning and significance about as if like it's changing the trajectory or the track of your life. I remember that's what my mum was telling me a lot when it happened, or maybe she was researching dreams and the meanings of it about cars. Anyway, something to do with your life path. And that was exactly what was going on for me at this time because my life path was so confusing. I was actually extremely rigid in my life. Leading up to the car crash, I had convinced myself that I needed to act like some sort of Navy SEAL guy, go to the gym every morning, 5:30, which is just normal now, but it's 10 years ago. And I was 20. Yeah, I was 20 at the time. Yeah. And I remember just jumping into the ocean every day, primal screaming, trying to
sick
evolve myself.
Evolution.
Yeah,
like a bit of a Goku kind of thing, like Dragon Ball Z.
Photosynthesis. and yeah, it's that classic story of when something can become so inflexible and rigid in life, then life cracks it open and breaks it open.
Fuck.
And I was going through a massive overcompensation of shame at that time, total identity crisis. I'd thought, or I'd put all my self-worth in this guy who was all about health and empowerment and everything. And I was feeling so lost in my relationship at the time. I think that we'd been together maybe 4 years or something. And sort of at a crossroads, do I want to go solo traveling? Do I want to experience being single? And all this sort of stuff, really confused. Anyway, went overseas with some friends, and I was feeling so mundane in Melbourne. I wanted variety, and I'm a total extremist sometimes. So we just had an extreme holiday, jumped on the meth for 10 days.
Oh my gosh, where were you?
Vietnam.
Cool.
Vietnam. So that was a really, I guess, high in a way of a drug high, but totally depressing. Experienced easily in the top 3 lows of my life.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I came back and had this enormous come down. Not just physical come down, but mental. It felt like a spiritual come down as well. Who the fuck am I? It felt so much shame as well because I just felt am I some sort of junkie or something? Not that people who do that is a junkie. These were just my thoughts that I was beating myself up with. And so that's why I thought, I just need to hit the gym every single day, not speak to any of my friends that I went on that trip with. Literally wouldn't pick up the phone.
What?
Total identity crisis. Anyway, went for about 4 or 5 months, and the whole time I was so guilty to my brain and to this universe because before the trip I was really arrogant with my brain. I thought, yes, I've got such a smart brain.
I'm smart.
My memory's so good. And, so anyway, and I remember feeling I'd totally permanently fucked my brain. I'd fucked my life up. My life was on a trajectory and I'd fucked that, and now I have no idea what I'm going to be doing. That's the feeling. And so I was praying to the universe, please reset my brain, please reset my brain. I remember just saying that over and over again. And anyway, my wish came true. I'm in a car with my friend in the passenger seat, and I'm actually just watching a video on my phone. And I didn't see what happened, but we were turning right, and then out of nowhere, just this massive smash hit the side that I was sitting on, and my whole world just felt like it squashed into a 2D form it went in slow motion because I didn't realize a car crash was happening. It was the most bizarre experience. And then the car hit us off the road onto the nature strip, wrapped around a pole. And it was the back right seat that wrapped around a pole. And every single day, or like 4 days a week, I would sit in that back right seat because another friend would usually drive with us.
Yeah.
And that was the one time that I didn't sit in that seat and I was up in the front left and I thought, fuck, that would have just been dead on impact. Anyway, my head went through the windscreen, got like this internal brain bleeding or blood trauma and brain trauma. And so then...
Trauma.
Huh?
Cool trauma.
Yeah. The cool car crash
The cool car crash trauma.
And it was sort of just unnerving because went to hospital and they're just like, oh, well, there's nothing really we can do. You just have to wait. And I'm like, wait till when? And they're like, oh, maybe a year or something. And so months went by and I was like a total zombie at home, just like sleeping 3 times a day. Couldn't really watch TV. Like if you hurt your ankle, you wouldn't walk on it. And I really hurt my brain. It's like a severe headache. And so even like trying to watch TV would just exhaust me. So I wasn't watching TV, literally just being a zombie. And then my memory just progressively got worse and worse. I was expecting it to get a little bit better. I mean, my short-term memory. I could remember stuff from when I was a kid. And then it would interrupt conversations I have with my parents. My confidence went down. Then it's just like this big spiral. As soon as like you lose the confidence part, it actually affects everything else. You start second-guessing everything you're thinking, everything you're saying. I become like so meek in just trying to start conversations. And there's a whole level of anxiety around that. Like I was feeling so anxious to even go out and socialize. And so I just wouldn't. And I remember one day then when it was sort of at its bottom, this was probably 3 months after. And then I was rearranging my study, had worked in there for over a year, spent like a couple of hours because I'm just trying to fill time, doing nothing with my life.
Yeah, fuck. So you couldn't work at this time?
Nah, fuck no. So rearrange the study, go back in the kitchen, get some water, look back at my achievements, and and then I just looked and suddenly like my face goes white. I'm just in shock because I can't remember what the room used to look like. I know that I was just in the room shifting stuff, but I have no idea what the room used to look like. And I'm sitting there feeling trapped in my own brain going, I know somewhere what that was. And feeling just trapped in my own brain, but not being able to connect the dots and feeling as if my brain was just getting worse and worse and worse. I just started to feel so defeated and helpless. Like, this is someone on Fox News or Sky News. This is not my fucking life. But it was. And I remember feeling just in that moment, quick spiral down, feeling totally, totally down and lost. And heavy, and then just this voice rang out to me, which I'd read, and I think we've spoken about it before, but this phrase just saying your belief directs your biology. I think you may have mentioned where it's from, but I don't remember where I read it, where I heard it.
Doesn't matter.
It just like was this resounding voice in my head when I really felt I was at the very bottom. And then I just got this intuitive call or something just directed me, go to the bathroom, to the mirror. And I didn't even think about it because I got no other options here. So I just go to the bathroom, close it, and I get this crazy idea that I'm going to swap positions with the guy in the mirror. And it can sound crazy talking about it now, but at the time, it honestly was my only option. It was like a fork in the road where I chose one option and the other one wasn't even an option. Like anything else, I wasn't even open to it. So I'd convinced myself I was going to swap positions with this guy in the mirror. I got my foil hat on. No, I didn't. But I started looking at this guy and I start painting all the traits of the Dom in the mirror. He's funny, smart, intelligent, energetic, witty, blah, 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 everything, all the things that I wanted that I felt I wasn't. And until I believed 100% that he had it all and I could see it and totally believe it as if I was looking at like the incarnation of that person. Like full embodiment of it. And so I didn't need to have it. I just needed to make sure he had it so I could swap positions with him.
It does sound so crazy, but I understand how it works on a like a neurochemical, neurological level it actually works.
I'm glad one of us does.
Kind of. I'm like trying to convince myself.
Yeah.
Continue.
So I'm painting all these sort of characteristics onto him, and I fully believe it. Okay, like I'm to the point where I'm absolutely certain, and it's such a superpower. So the feeling, the sense of certainty, it's powerful. It's like a laser beam. Like it can really destroy or really create stuff wherever you point it. And so I'm staring at this guy. Once I'm in that state of certainty, he 100% has it. And I'm like, all right, well, now I'm going to do the thing. I'm going to swap positions with him. But there's like this little caveat or this little thing that I tricked my brain with, which is I said to myself, I can never prove that I did this. Like, it's ridiculous swapping places in a mirror with someone. What's that? But then I told myself, but I'll never be up, because if I ever swap positions, everything will look the same. Everything will be a mirror reflect. Everything will look the exact same, that I won't be able to tell that it didn't happen. I'll never be able to prove that it didn't happen. And in that moment, it sort of created this little weird tick not a tick, like I don't know, it just took me to the next stage.
It was like next level.
Something clicked, essentially. Cool. Something clicked, and in that moment, then I was just staring at myself, and suddenly in my periphery, it just all sort of went black. And I know this sounds sort of mystical or weird, but it went black, and I'm staring into the eyes of the other person. There's complete certainty, but now it's just like a sort of strange presence and peaceness. So my periphery goes black, and I'm just staring, and then it's like this total feeling of union, and then I just feel this huge pulse in my brain, like just over here, just this big pulsing heartbeat, like this boom, boom here, and then just this like almost feels like water rushing through a clogged pipe. And it was just this consciousness rushing through my head, and then feeling these waves of just, and this energetic sort of consciousness and awareness. And then these shivers running up my spine, down my face, down my neck. And this level of energy as if you'd just like shaken up a can of soda. And in that moment, I could remember what the room used to look like the office used to look like. I felt I had my life back. Like it's like as if, it's like a car where you're like you're starting it, and it finally turns over, all the lights pop on, it's roaring. That's what happened in that moment. And from that moment onwards, it was just up. And it's been amazing. Like, I wouldn't say my memory is perfect today, but that's its whole other blessing in itself, actually.
Why?
I was really attached to feeling like I had to be smart, intelligent, and almost like amassing knowledge. Like, knowledge was the thing that you had to have more of. And the more knowledge I had, the more arrogant I would feel as well. But the more knowledge I got, the further away from myself and the potential and this magnificent sort of magic and power, connecting to that, I would disconnect from that, because then I would put my self-worth outside of myself into knowledge. And it's like I had to forget so many things, so cliche, but just to remember as much of the parts of myself that I'd forgotten. Not that I consciously knew it, but that feeling where you have a connection with yourself, and it feels like a remembering at the same time.
Yeah. We've spoken about this before.
Yeah.
It's not so much learning new things, it's remembering who the fuck we are.
Yeah, completely.
That's so cool.
And that's what I feel like this experience did. I actually remember on the day of the car crash as well, when I'd gotten out and I was looking back at the car, and I remember just thinking, like, how would I feel if I had died today? Because that day was just an ordinary day for me. It had like a slightly weird feeling, but I think I just overlay that because now I know what happened that afternoon. So actually it was just a normal day. We got in a circle at the office, awkwardly sang someone happy birthday. They hated it just as much as any other day.
Why do you do that? It's such a weird human thing, isn't it? Anyway, that's another sidetrack. So average day.
It was an average day. Nothing was out of the ordinary. I was in the car just watching video on Facebook at the time.
What was it?
It was my friend Elliot. He was in Japan, and he was like kicking his friend on a train, and I just remember
Great.
Yeah, great content.
Great content, Elliot.
Thanks, Elliot. And yeah, but that was a huge shift for me, truly deciding, like, would I have been content with myself? Could I die with a smile that day if I had died? And it really bothered me that I wouldn't have been sort of happy to die that day. Really bothered me.
So what happened after that? Did you change your life?
Yeah, well, it's sort of like, luckily by force, it sort of changed everything. So after that, because that experience in the mirror felt like a scientific / esoteric mystical miracle.
Yeah.
You know, that I thought, wow, this stuff's cool, and I was hooked.
I'm going to do this all the
Let
time.
me smoke more of that.
Whatever the fuck is going on, give me 20.
So anyway, after that, I became it was this new sort of spring that I just wanted to drink from, of what are experiences that I didn't even know were possible to experience. So it's not that I haven't experienced them. I don't know that they're even possible to experience. And how do I just stumble upon more of those experiences that show me parts of myself that I didn't even realize I could search for or connect.
Yeah. Wow.
And that's been really, really meaningful to me. It gives me a greater sense of what this experience is, and also appreciation for the power in other people. Like, it's just our nature. And I want to experience more of what that nature is.
Yeah. This is the thing. We don't realize, we think that we know what all the possibilities are, but there's a whole fucking world beyond what we can even imagine. Like, I'm sure that you didn't even think that you would get your memory back, let alone small spots with the man in the mirror, and now do what you're doing. Or
even be extremely grateful for not having the same memory as beforehand.
Fuck, that is huge. We've spoken about that in detail, like finding the blessing in finding the light in the dark.
Yeah, totally.
And the contrast.
Yeah. Well, it was one of my biggest fears, you know. My biggest fears has always been like the sense of permanence in a negative way has been a big fear for me.
Why?
Just because it feels like, everything else you can change and all that, but if something's really sort of permanent, like when I was younger, I thought, why the fuck would anyone get tattoos? You know, like, you may like it now, but you're going to like it in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. And that's how I used to see things. Whereas now you can learn to love things. And it's actually my ignorance of how it can be loved at the time. Yeah, I remember we were talking about that scare last week. I got this sort of like scam, these scamming messages on Instagram. And now if anyone else saw them, maybe they wouldn't even care, but because it was one of my biggest fears, you know, it really triggered me. Someone was scamming about saying like, you know, you've gotten someone pregnant and they're going to have a child, and having a child with someone that I don't want to have a child with and completely out of a relationship, you know, terrified me, because it's like this permanent child or permanent thing.
Permanent human in the world.
And that really scared me, and it gave me some great reflection when I ended up sort of digging deep into it. Like, really, what is this fear about?
Yeah.
And it allowed me to really find actually how it would really aid my life if that did happen. And it showed my sort of extreme attachment to just wanting things to be good in the way that my preference is, and how much that can actually really be a massive fuck up or a massive obstacle in my life. Like, the biggest obstacle is really my attachment to a particular form.
Yes, we've had this conversation many, many times, and I went through the same thing with attachment to a certain person and a certain type of love. And I was talking to a client about it, and I use this really cool metaphor. It's like, you know, when you would have this with Luna, with your dog, and you've got a piece of chocolate and they really want the chocolate and they think it's going to be the best thing for them, and they're like jumping up and down, and it's like, this will actually make you sick. But the dog thinks it knows what it wants, and it's actually not. And I feel like that's the fucking universe. It's like, we just attach ourselves to the form and we go, this is really, really what I want. And then we don't know that we've got something better that's not chocolate, or we don't know that it's going to make us sick. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. And it's like, Because I got that dog in me.
I got the inner dog.
And it's and you know, you've heard all the words about it before, you know, whether it's your limbic brain, your amygdala, that's that part of us that just seeks prey and, you know, wanting to run away from predator, essentially. And so when we see something that matches that search image vaguely of what we see as prey, we lunge after it and it pumps the adrenaline, go into total animal mode. We're not using our prefrontal cortex. We're not using the executive parts of our brain to rationally thinking about it and seeing it from like a bird's eye perspective. And so we're quite like pretty much all those desires are so animalistic inside of us. But the way that a lot of it shows up with humans or myself is the desire for pleasure, you know, and the desire to avoid pain. And the amount of pleasure that I think I'm going to get from achieving the form that I think I want is, that's where I feel it goes full circle with. That's one of the biggest obstacles. And that's why I feel like the biggest obstacle is yourself, really, because you're battling your own internal experience of what you think life is. But yeah, it's a pretty big conflict.
So how do you get past it?
Well, I believe there's a natural flow of nature. And so whether you learn about the Tao, like in Taoism, where they call it the Tao, whatever, but they say, you know, any Tao that can be explained, or if you think you know what it is, you don't know what it is.
Cool.
Because I guess if you're trying to put words on it, it's like words are sort of half truths. If you're trying to put words on it, words can't truly capture the essence. They're sort of just like empty shells. Anyway, so I believe there's a nature and that nothing's missing at any time. And if you dig deep enough, you can find you're surrounded by everything at all times. It's like the law of conservation. There's no deletion of energy, no creation of it. It just simply transforms. So it just changes forms. And I believe that there's always things in your life. It's just changing forms. But if I'm looking, like if I'm on the street looking for red cars and I'm obsessed with finding red cars, and someone comes and asks me, oh, how many blue cars, green cars, motorbikes, bicycles, you know, tennis balls were there, I would have no idea. And so if I'm focused on one form, I'm going to miss out on all the information and potentially all the opportunity as well. It's like if you think if you're overseas and you've only ever caught planes to places and there's no planes going, you're going to be so pissed off and you'd never heard that there's a train. So it's a different form, but it's still the mode of transport that's going to get you there. And I truly believe that in life. There's different sort of vehicles that we can use, but if we're obsessed that it has to be one particular vehicle, then we're going to feel like at conflict and that we're missing something in our life and really angry and frustrated and trying to force it. You know that feeling where you're trying to force things in life and it just feels like it's not working.
Yeah.
I think it's important to slow down and find the form of what you think is missing. That could be the form of money. It could be the form of support. It could be the form of having friends or growth, and find out where it is and how that form is actually helping you. And then I feel you can move with your internal rhythm. I think moving and flowing in life with your own internal rhythm, like everyone is at a different rhythm. Everyone goes through sprint phases. It's different seasonal cycles. And maybe we can match up in some ways, but our own life is our own song, really.
That's beautiful.
And I think we're here to play our own song. You know, I'll never be able to play your song as great as you. So there's no point me trying to play your song. But as long as I'm comparing mine to yours, all that means is I'm just missing out on my song. And so I think finding your own rhythm and getting in connection with that, and then appreciating how life is happening for you, really, then I feel like it develops this relationship with life itself. Just as much as you develop your relationship with your dog or your partner or your friends. It's like this mutual trust and appreciation.
Rather than like, why is this happening to me? And then being the victim of the circumstances that are like the situations that you're finding in yourself in, whether that's the breakup or whether that's the car crash or whatever it is. It's going, cool, I'm part of this creation and I can appreciate everything that is coming to me because this is my journey and this is my song, and not trying to compare it like I feel like it's like common, especially around like this age where you feel like half your friends are still getting on the bags and getting drunk, and then your other half of your friends are married with kids, and then your other half of your friends are traveling the world, because apparently we have 3 halves of friends, and I didn't do my maths properly then. But it's like, fuck, where am I meant to be? And we're comparing everyone else's songs to ours, and then making our songs wrong, even though we might be really, really happy, or we're trying to take parts from other people's songs and put them into our own life. And now I'm seeing like music notes everywhere, and I'm like grabbing little things like that. And then we're trying to get this like weird song that's really not ours, whereas if we just came back to our own, it would sound a lot nicer. That's a fucking cool metaphor.
Yeah, and the song's naturally there, waiting to be played.
That's
like,
all.
It's there.
I was like, yes, it's there. Fuck. And it coming back to the whole form thing is really, really cool. So when you say that something changes forms, can you give us an example? Because I feel like this is such a new concept. I remember when we were talking about it for the first time, my brain was like, what?
Yeah, for sure. So it pretty much is on like, how much time we got?
We're good.
Okay. Give me like a heads up when it's like 10.
I'm just checking because we could be in here for fucking hours.
This is drawing predominantly on 3 universal laws.
Okay.
So the law of conservation, the law of the one and the many, which is probably one of the most universal of all of them, and then the law of polarity. Law of polarity is literally just negative and positive, and everything contains both halves. And
I love that conversation.
So the law of conservation then is the energy is already there.
Yeah.
It's just changing form. Law of the one and the many means the forms can change from one form to many forms. A way to explain this is you could have a $100 bill, or you could have 100 $1 coins. You could have, and then it works in terms of when you're scaling up and down. You got one solar system, many planets, one planet, many countries, many states, etc., etc. You got one human body, many different worlds inside of there.
Cool.
And so it's just it shows that things change form, really. That's it. And when something, I'm telling you about how something changes forms with an example. Okay, great. So
Are you?
I just had to just double check. Yeah, so I was in a relationship for about 8 years.
Yes.
And we broke up, and it was really, really, really hard for me. I remember I still felt so in love, really, really attached to the idea. I didn't know who I was outside of that.
Which is such a big thing, like such a common thing. We relate our identity to our partner so much.
Yeah. And I liked the person I was in the relationship, so I was attached to that. I was attached to how I thought someone felt about me. I was attached to even lying together in the same bed, just falling asleep together every single night. And so after that, I'd have little peaks and troughs, but largely I'd say in the first 18 months, it was really hard just to let go. Forcing, not like pursuing it or anything, forcing myself to just endure the pain, really. But after 18 months, I thought, fuck, like there's got to be some sort of breakthrough here. And so I wrote a big list of every single thing that I missed, because I can say that I missed her, and largely, yeah, that's true, but that's actually just a big label. Like, I'm not missing her toenails. I'm not missing any of the fights. I'm not missing that sort of disconnection with each other. I'm not missing the experiences I didn't like. I'm not missing the things that I didn't like, and they're outside of my awareness. Some of them are outside my awareness. I'm just missing the specific things that I miss and I'm attached to. So I listed every single one of them. And it came down to about like 12 different things, like as specific as her laugh, specific as her eyes. And you think, well, who the fuck's going to replace that? But I wrote them all down. Anyway, and it would be the certain conversations we'd have, get extremely specific. And then I started listing, okay, well, where are the other forms of these things? And I started realizing that I was surrounded in, if that was $100 bill, all those forms with her, then I started counting out where all the $1 coins were. And I found 100 of the $1 coins. And when I found that, my nervous system just instantly was calm. I felt totally secure that I was completely hugged by the universe, that nothing was missing, and surrounded by that type of support the whole time. And then I went to look deeper to break the attachment so that my brain would stop trying to seek this other form, because as long as I'm attached to one form, I instantly resent and hate every other form that's not it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Because you've got like your mind set on that. So it's just like nothing else matters. Like
nothing else matters.
a horse with blinkers.
Yeah. But then because I'm infatuated with it, then I resent the opposite of it. So anyone that is the opposite of what I really, really want, I now like think is disgusting.
Interesting.
Or I don't like. So that creates so much emotional turmoil.
Yeah.
And that's going on psychologically all the time. So I started listing how it was serving me, all the new forms, and actually discovering that's a law of polarity, that there's a balance in everything. It's just my specific preferences and my biases aren't able to see the bigger picture. So the way to break out of that bias and see the bigger picture and appreciate the wisdom and the abundance of everything is asking these questions that I wasn't consciously asking. So what are the advantages to all these new forms? And I started seeing that I got a lot more variety, hanging out with lots of different people. I got exposed to different humor, different conversations, different types of conversations that I would have never had before, different subjects. I learned different things. I discovered new things about myself, things that I liked that I hadn't tried before. All these different things. And then the other step to stop being attached was, what are the disadvantages to the form that I previously had? And I noticed that it would distract me at times from my mission, because I would be, say I'm with friends just thinking about her and home, and that's great. But then I had a surge of growth with business, with everything else, and I had so much more time to invest in that. And my friendships became richer after as well. And then I really have to appreciate, okay, well, why at this point specifically in my life is it important to have it all in this form and not that other form? And I got to see how it was supporting my mission and values. And it was time for me to grow some other it's like a university course. I've done that one, and now it's time to do this one. Yeah, wow. And when I did that, I didn't miss her. I just felt a deep sense of appreciation for her, deep sense of appreciation of the role she's playing in my life, of the transformation of those forms. Really grateful for how it was before, and also thanking her for the forms that I get to experience now. Like the same level of love in my heart and the universe is there consistent. So anyway, that's an example.
Fuck, that's such a cool example. So it's like, it's always there. Was it the law of conservation?
Law of conservation. That
everything is always there. Nothing can be created or destroyed. It just changes forms. And this goes for like sadness, and this goes for like celebrations. It goes for fucking everything. And I know that we've gotten into deep conversations about like the law of polarity. And I mentioned to you, this was I think a few weeks ago when I was talking about like my upper limit. And I was like, fuck, things are really good. And I just keep like sabotaging and bringing myself down. And then you were like, okay, let's neutralize them. Because with every amazing fucking thing that you're doing, there's also the other side of that.
Can I talk about that?
No.
No, but
Please.
Wait, were you going to keep going?
No, I'm done. You
okay.
Go.
There's a natural homeostatic system in the body. When you get cold, your body shivers to heat up. When you get hot, your body sweats and cools down. And so but there's also a mind-body connection. You've got the homeostatic system in your brain as well. So when we have things that we're attached to, or things that would be attached with our pride. So an upper limit can usually be associated with, if we got that money, we would think we're better.
Yes.
I'd think I'd be a better person. And so we sort of look at that and we want to get that because then we think we're going to be a better person, and that'll actually increase our pride. If we're increasing our pride, that's not our authentic self. If we ended up getting that sort of money in with that same unconscious intention, we're actually dragging ourselves away from ourselves. Then what happens is the homeostatic mechanism of shame kicks in, and you'll start doing something that sabotages yourself, so something that's sort of lower, to bring you back down to compensate for that pride. So it's also a part of this thing called the moral licensing effect. And what that is say you go out and you do a lot of good, you feel like, yes, now I've got like some room to do a little bad. I can balance it out.
Karma.
Have you ever felt you've like done a big weekend, like in terms of running retreats or working with clients, and then you feel like you kind of deserve to take the foot off the pedal?
Yeah, run amok.
Go run amok, yeah, or jump on drink, or you don't drink.
Like have a little scroll. Like,
have a massive
that's
doom
big
scroll.
For me. I'm like,
yes.
I've done a podcast. I can just scroll.
Yeah. I've done enough. I can do this.
I can balance. Yeah, it's like a balance thing.
It's
hey?
a balance. So that's a moral licensing effect. But the only reason you're needing to balance it is because you perceived the other thing to be good.
Yes.
The only reason you perceived the other thing to be good is likely because then you thought you were a better person. It increased your sense of pride. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have the body come through giving you that internal feedback to do then something unconsciously shameful to bring that back into balance. But the moral licensing effect is, when you're feeling sort of pride, then you feel like you're above those things. So you can do, you then drop into sort of lower value activities to balance yourself out. The way to sort of neutralize that, if you feel like you or anyone listening to this is swinging between that, is to actually dissolve what you think is the good thing in the first place. Notice what wasn't great about it. Notice the drawbacks to it, because it's just a different form anyway. Notice the drawbacks to it. Notice the pains that you went through with it. Notice if you ask yourself, what do I think this will give me? Who do I think I'll be? And try and find, because what you're doing is you're putting your sense of self-worth outside of you, and now the world is humbling you because of that. So that you end up bringing your self-worth back inside, and that's how you connect with yourself. And that's where all your worth is. And that's the most gracious flow of nature, is recognizing that inherent infinite value inside of you. Like even that thing, increasing your self-worth, like it's a great phrase and a great sort of model to use, but it's really an illusion. There is no increasing your self-worth. How do you increase your self-worth? You increase your awareness of your infinite worth. You don't increase your self-worth. You're infinitely worthy. There's no such thing.
I fucking love that. Like little switch in language.
Just a little switch. The little switcheroo.
Just a little switchy.
Yeah. I mean, that's what most of it is, isn't it? Our consciousness, the expansion of it is coincides with the expansion of language. And that's what's happened across cultures and civilizations across the ages. And so language is a huge fucking part of it. Massive.
Yeah, wow. That's like got my mind ticking so much. Like awareness of self-worth.
Yeah, and that's why it's important, because the upper limit means that there's self-worth that's attached to that higher amount, which means there's pride attached to it. And what happens when what goes up must come down? So it's accepting. One of the things you could do is, if there's a certain limit, like let's say it's $400,000 a year, $1 million a year, find out where you already have that value now.
Okay.
And when you find out where you already have that value now, then you can work, because if we're desiring it in that way where we think we're going to be better, we're going to approach it in an animal mindset. And it's coming from our amygdala. It's going to be total conflict. We're going to beat others up that get in our way, beat ourselves up if we don't get it. And the pendulum just swings, and the dramas and tragedies of life just continue.
Okay. So finding where you've already got it.
Find out where you've already got the exact amount you want to hit. And what that does is that lowers the nervous system and dissolves the attachment to it. So if you find out where you've already got, let's say it's $500,000. Let's say you wanted that amount per year. Find out where you've got $500,000, like the value of $500,000. And for some people, maybe they find that a bit difficult for the value, but what they truly wanted was a sense of security or a sense of freedom.
Yeah.
Find out where you've got what forms of security, what forms of freedom you're experiencing, and then list the things. Put a dollar amount on it, like put a dollar amount on the knowledge that you have. Put a dollar, like right now, like if I gave you $1 billion to chop both your legs off, you probably wouldn't do it, or would you?
Nah. Would I? Nah, I like walking too much.
Okay, great. Well, you've already got $1 billion right there.
I've got $1 billion
You got $1 billion.
legs.
But more importantly, back to the sense of freedom and security, finding those different forms, and then again, balance it out by finding the advantages to the current form and disadvantages if you had it in the form of $500,000 right now, not in the future, but right now. And when you find that, you can be at ease and grateful and for what you have in life. And haven't you noticed life gives you more of what you're grateful for?
Yes.
Why would nature flow to a certain way where that nature isn't then maintained and looked after? And think about the energy that's associated. If you're really wanting, say, 500K and you got 250 or 300 or 100, and the energy that's associated with that amount of money, why would more money flow to that energy?
Yes, this is such a big thing. It's like money is energy. Everything is energy.
Yeah.
Everything is vibration. Everything
all
is
energy.
resonance, frequency. And it's like if you're like hating on money or you think money is the root of all evil or anything like that, but you're like, I want more. It's like, fuck off.
Yeah.
It can't. Like it's not going to resonate with that.
No. And what do you even want? What do you want to spend the money on? Most people think they want money, but they want it because they're just thinking that's the strategy that'll secure the things that they truly want. So actually think about what you truly want.
Yeah.
What is it that you'd spend the money on? You know, most people that think they want the money don't actually want the money. They want the things that the money will buy.
Yeah.
Or that they'll then get from buying those things.
Like social status?
Yeah, it could be social status. It could be a sense of security. It could be, feeling like then you'll be liked. You know? So then if you got that money, you're just overcompensating for the shame. Why would nature just want to increase your experience of shame? Yeah. Unless maybe it was trying to mirror it for you so you get it. But yeah, there's you can go through so many different paths with this, but what it comes down to is you're going to be at conflict as long as you see a sense of loss.
We've spoken about this before in terms of even breakups.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about that?
Which part?
Just like the form of loss or like the sense of loss.
Yeah.
And with money, and take it wherever you want, but I think it's really, really cool, like philosophy, idea.
The sense of loss is pretty much what's going to create every drama in your life. You know, do I have a loss of love from someone, a loss of security? When I think about not having a certain amount of money, what am I really scared of not attaining because I'm scared that I don't have it? And that is the true, that's the resonation you're really resonating at, not the excitations of how you feel straight after the ice bath and you're like, yeah, I'm going to make $1 million fucking bucks in the next month.
Yes.
And, you know, it's the underlying unconscious resonation. Like, what do they say, how much you can fit in your conscious mind in one moment in terms of your focus, like 7 items of information or whatever, but your unconscious is holding it all. What really drives your behavior? You know,
you're unconscious.
You're unconscious.
Yeah.
And trying to overpower that with your conscious is, I've tried it. The math doesn't work.
I've tried and tested it. Take it from me.
You got to work with the unconscious, or
yeah. Well, we operate, isn't it like 95% from our subconscious mind or unconscious mind? It's like 5% of what we do is actually conscious. So it makes sense to go underneath and to work with that mind rather than working on your conscious behaviors.
Well, just a note on that. Totally. You want to find out what is driving that force of your unconscious. So, for instance, when I work with people that say want to lose weight.
Yes.
Asking
Why
them,
was I so happy about that?
Yes. Is asking them, you know, what are the benefits to being overweight?
Fuck.
What are the advantages? Because the behavior is showing that it's a consistent behavior, so it's achieving something. And the doing that, it nets out less negative than losing weight. So when you net everything out, you know how they'll say, like, you're not going to change until the pain of not changing is greater than the pain of, or whatever. I mix that up. The pain of changing.
Something like that.
The pain of not changing. Can you say it? Because
you won't change until the pain of changing is harder than the pain of changing the same. Wait.
Exactly.
What?
Poetic. No, that's it.
I think I fucked it up though.
No.
Keep talking. I'm going to Google it.
Okay, great. Anyway, if you're thinking about any of your behavior, like if you're ever trying to consciously do something and you feel like you're using willpower, It just means that there is...
I can't find it.
That's right. There's more things in your unconscious that are getting something out of it. So people know the sort of laws of secondary gain.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like if you want to lose weight, but you're not able to lose weight, look at what you're actually gaining by staying that weight.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And when you find out what you're gaining, you realize, oh, I'm doing it because of this, and you see how that impacts your values. Maybe it increases my connection with my own body or sense of pleasure when I'm eating this or that. Or maybe I always go out to dinners with this person. Or when I was younger, you know, we'd have so many comfortable times around the dinner table together that I feel more warm and safe and, you know, this sort of stuff. Or it means that I get more free time, or I get to feel entertained, or I get a sense of variety, you know, with food. Like, there's so many things, and it's going to be different for everyone else. These are just sort of examples. But find out if your behavior, you almost got to look at it as like a river, and if it's flowing this way, trying to like throw water upstream to change the direction of the river.
Just have you in the middle of an ocean
screaming
with like fisherman pants on. In my head, just like
not too far from the truth.
trying to get the water upstream.
Yeah.
Continue.
Is finding out, you know, why is it flowing that way in the first place?
Yeah.
And let's work with nature, find out why it's flowing there in the first place, and let's say you think of 50 reasons why.
Yeah.
Okay. Then it's going to be up to you to think of 50 reasons then why you should lose the weight. But make sure it's balanced, because you're not then making a conscious decision. As long as your mind's in balance, you're not thinking from a whole mind. If you're not thinking from a whole mind, you're not thinking from your heart. And so if your mind's imbalanced, you're going to be acting from your animal mode, which again is just the drama of seeking pleasure, avoiding pain. And as long as you're seeking pleasure and avoiding pain, you're going to be a slave to the world, because you can't govern yourself. And if you can't govern yourself, then you're going to be a slave to people who can give you that pleasure, or people who are going to remove pain for you. And you'll be a fucking drone for all the politicians or religious institutions out there, and not have that sense of self-governance. A big key for self-governance is, can you listen to the whispers of your intuition? Can you listen to the feedback of your body? Because all the information is there. If you skip those things, you're going to find out the symptoms when it's fucking pretty late. And it'll be screaming at you. By the time it's screaming at you, then it moves on from inside and your mind and your body, and it goes then socially and theologically. So you're going to get feedback from friends now, like either coming out of your life, attracting different characters, people suddenly calling you a bitch or a dick, you know, whatever it is, and telling, and then feeling sort of subordinated to trying to find an answer and a savior, or who I should be. I'm trying to find, you know, what's the right thing to do. And then I'm just going to follow someone else, and my song will just not be heard.
Fuck, mic drop. That was beautiful. You managed to bring that right back in.
Well, now I've got to bring it back to the sense of loss.
Yes.
So
I'm proud
sense
of you,
of
though.
loss, our unconscious, when you marry the conscious and the unconscious, you're not going to see anything's missing. It only is a perception that it's missing because our conscious awareness isn't picking up on it. But that's why when you dig into your unconscious, which is taking in all the information and the data anyway, and when you marry those two, you're seeing it from the sense of whole, which is seeing it from the sense of love as well. And that's usually why you feel grateful for things when you have a breakthrough with your unconscious and, you know, that relationship with yourself. But the sense of loss is just a sense and a perception, because my conscious awareness isn't picking up on it. And if it's not picking up on it, then it's going to go after the forms that I've experienced in the past, or what I think it should be, which means my future actions are going to almost mirror just the forms of my past. I'm just going to repeat my past a lot of the time. When there's new forms and new opportunities and new things to be created. And there's beautiful things flowing through us. But with the sense of loss, which is just like the Buddha would say, the attachments, and our attachments to avoiding things you can't avoid, trying to avoid pain in your life and seek comfort. There's no life without pain.
Nads and I were getting into this, a whole kind of like other kettle of fish, but like art that comes from pain. and like we create your eyes just
Yes,
lit up. You're like,
that's amazing.
yes. But like, if you can't avoid it. You can't avoid a life of suffering. It just changes forms, and it's depending on what you do with it.
100%. There's no avoiding it, but if you can make it meaningful, if you can make the pain meaningful, that's all it ever is. When you look, if you're looking at someone and someone's like listening to this, no, but I've seen people, they, don't have pain or whatever. First of all, they do.
First of all, they're lying.
And well, you're not seeing the full picture. Everyone's going through stuff.
Yeah.
And people are going through stuff they're not even aware of. Just the other week when I had that experience we're talking about, it reminded me of a memory from year 7 that was really troubling for me at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't realize that was still in my body. So that's going to be taxing my energy. That's going to be getting triggered when things like that match that form that I had forgotten about. So everyone's going through stuff. Even when you see people and you're like, oh, they're the nicest person in the world. They would never do anything wrong, like complete bullshit. I just read an article about that zoologist guy who, even rubbed shoulders with the royals in the UK, and he was one of our biggest ambassadors for zoology and animals and stuff. And he just got done for like killing, raping, and doing all this sort of stuff to like 50 dogs.
What
all
the
this sort of stuff, filming
fuck?
it, posting it on the dark net. His wife had no clue the entire time.
That's fucked.
Yeah, it's gruesome. And yeah, there's stuff behind closed doors. Not saying that
You don't know who.
there's always two sides.
Well, yeah, that's it.
And so coming back to the person who thinks they're really, 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 nice, just if you're knowing the universal laws, everyone is a whole being, a full quantum. And what I'm calling nice, someone else may not call nice. This is going off track, but this is how some of the universal laws can apply to things.
Yeah.
When in September 11, when the planes hit the World Trade Center,
Yeah.
the Americans will be thinking that's the most horrible thing in the world.
Yeah.
And a lot of the other people who were in support of those planes hitting the buildings didn't think it was the most horrible thing in the world to the same degree. There's the law, in the law of conservation, there's no creation without destruction. This is true in every area of life. Because quite literally, even if you're learning new knowledge, you're now destroying the knowledge that you knew beforehand because you're now letting that go to create the new. So even psychologically, the creation and destruction is there. It's just now rearranging the energetic resources. So even in that, there was the destruction of the buildings. There was creation of new buildings. There was... In that month alone, the number of deaths in New York was the same as September the previous year. So the same number of people died in New York in September 2001, the same as September 2000. So the number was conserved on average.
Didn't you say, sorry, wasn't there a guy that like got his career launched because he filmed the thing?
I'm sure that would happen, but I don't remember hearing about that.
Fuck, someone told me, sorry to like take that, but someone told me that someone had filmed something or launched his career off the back of being in the right time at the right place.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And then that turned out to be the best thing to ever happen to him because of that terrible event.
Oh, yeah, well, it's like, I saw that dude on Instagram the other day. I think he was complaining about transgender stuff or gender stuff being taught in schools. And he was talking about as well in the same post how he's, living his purpose or whatever, and he's finally reaching people and that this is his mission. But without having those people that he's pointing the finger at, he would have zero platform to be living his mission. I wonder if he's ever thanked them.
Right.
Because they've quite literally helped him live his mission and express himself.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Okay, come back to what you were saying before I interrupted you.
So the sense of loss, that maybe there was a loss in the economy, but florist businesses were booming, construction company boomed. So there was a lot of people that lost stuff. This is now, you can do this at every level, at a city level, a nation level. Obviously on Earth, all the resources are just being recycled. But when you zoom in, there could be some person's life. So for instance, there was an increase in PTSD and anxiousness and, that sort of loneliness. But then there was a massive increase as well in volunteering and support groups coming together. And Yeah, you'll sort of notice that, and it could be different forms for some people, but when some people die in a family, then the rest of the family can come closer. And if they don't and they explode, then they'll become closer with other friends. There is a balance of that conservation, and it's this sort of magnificence that is permeating everything at all times. And I think it's one of the coolest things to look into and appreciate, because you get to see that everything is whole. And when everything's whole and you're in that moment of appreciating wholeness, that's what presence is. And in that moment, then you're not seeking to try and be fulfilled by something outside of you, because it's just driven by a sense of lack that you need this to become whole. And I truly believe when you're acknowledging that wholeness, there's nothing that can make you whole, because there's nothing that can make you lack. There is no lack, just perceived forms of lack. You get to then approach life like a bit of a game, not a fucking am I worthy or not sort of fucked up drama.
You just are worthy because you're here.
Yeah.
And that's it. It doesn't need to be more complicated than that. This is what India and I were speaking about. If you haven't listened to it, it's I think it's like episode 3, Remembering Who You Are with India Vine. And she's just like, you just need to remember who the fuck you are. Like, you don't need to go and search for things like we spoke about at the start. It's not like you're not missing anything. Just fucking come back into you, and you are worthy because you are here. And if you think about the chances of you actually being born, of course you're fucking worthy. Look at what you've already gone through to just be on this earth and have this experience.
Yeah.
It's fucking wild.
Yeah.
And it's like, of course you have to go through a bit of suffering to learn the lessons. And when I think about the suffering that I've been through, like my Crohn's journey has been one of the best blessings of my whole entire life. Because if I didn't have that, I wouldn't have had the catapult to change. I would have just kept drinking and partying and doing whatever the fuck I was doing, and we wouldn't be sitting here right now. Fuck, that's cool. That's kind of like off topic, but
it's so on topic. Caitlin asked me one of the best questions I've ever been asked, which is, what's the worst thing that's happened to you, and why is it the best? And yeah, that's stuck with me ever since. I love that question so much.
So powerful.
So powerful.
And that's, again, comes into that like balance. Hey.
Yeah.
Is that when you told me about your cool car crash for the first time? I think so. Yeah. Because then in reflection, you asked that question. Yeah. And it just totally resonated. Going back to what you're saying about searching is a big thing, because it's something I've felt sort of, it's like my biggest blessing and curse in my life. Just the curiosity I have. Like...
yeah. Searching. And there's almost like 2 ways of searching. Like the way where it's sort of like anxious searching and needing searching. And that sort of intention is like, I need this to be whole, essentially. But when you think about it, those who are searching God the most have it the least. Those who are searching, lots of other things have it the least. And they have it the least in the sense of their sense of security with it, how their nervous system feels about it. When you're not searching, then you can actually enjoy the process. Because if you're searching your whole life and then you finally get it, or maybe you got the thing and you look back and you're like, fuck, like I wish I enjoyed that journey. And so being able to see that nothing's lacking, it also shows you what you naturally just enjoy to do. And that's probably going to be the most sustainable thing in your life, is whatever you truly enjoy the process of. If you can just enjoy it as it is, like how many podcasts have you done in the past 2 weeks?
So many. I've been in this studio almost every day just yapping.
And see, how amazing is that? Like, if I was to back a horse in the podcast industry, you would be such a great pick for me, because you're doing it regardless of what outcomes have to be achieved in the future. You know, you probably have your goals, like you want to do X amount per week, or you just want to do as many as you can.
Well, when I started, I had to remove all the pressure, and I was like, just do it for fun and just speak. And I was like, I can't commit to weekly episodes. It's not going to go anywhere. It's just going to be this little fun side hobby where I get to talk to people, and that's it. And now, like within a month, it's now this studio. And now I'm like, oh my God, this is the best thing that I've ever done in my whole entire life. And all I want to do is podcast. I just want to be in here all day speaking to people and having these types of conversations.
I tell you every time, but you're amazing at it.
Thank you. But that's it, right? Like you have to enjoy the journey of it. And I feel like it's taking the pressure off it and enjoying the climbing up the staircase, not just when you get to the top step.
Yeah, I mean, that's the experience, isn't it? Like, that is the experience. Otherwise, you're going to miss out on the whole thing.
I think there's a saying.
If life was just for the destination, then why wouldn't you just skip to the destination part? Like, why would we have this in-between part?
Facts.
What were you about to say?
There's a saying, and we're probably going to butcher it, but it's like we're very good at butchering sayings. Isn't it? Life is about the journey, not the destination.
Yeah.
To some degree. It's exactly what you've just said as well.
It hit me real hard when I read that book, Shoe Dog. Phil Knight, the guy who did Nike.
Yeah, I haven't read it.
Founded Nike. Anyway, he put it went on the stock exchange overnight. It was worth like 70 mil. Obviously, it's worth over $1 billion now.
Fuck.
But at that time, the thought that came to his mind was, I wish I could just go back and do it all again.
Because he wanted to experience the fun of it.
Because it was the journey.
Yeah.
That's what it all was. Did you find with yourself, when you said, all I need to do is just speak, when you got your goal and you just put it into one single, simple step and removed everything else, that made a change for you? It
was like, just do one episode and see how you feel. And I just started at home, had my mic, and I was I was laying on the couch. I full like Maxo relaxoed it, and I got my feet up, and I just had my mic, and I'm just like, I'm just going to speak. And I was like, cool. Well, actually, now I've got something else to talk to, so I'm going to record a second one. And then I was like, oh, do you know who'd be really cool for this? India, my mentor. I'm going to message her. And she was like, absolutely, I would fucking love to. And I was like, fuck. I didn't even have any branding. I didn't even have a name for it. I think at this stage, like it was really like minimal, but I had to go and make it as simple and as small as possible so it could just grow and so it could just transform. Because I had always told myself, like, I can't commit to all these episodes, or like, how do I make a jingle and how do I edit where it's got that cool like intro part and it has the like soundbite at the start and then it's got some music and then it's got some ad breaks, and I was like, oh, that's so complicated. So now we just like hit record and we just talk and then I stop it and that's it. And it didn't need to be harder than that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. What was making it hard, and then why do you feel you were able to let go of that stuff?
I was making it hard because I was trying to, oh my God, this like ties into everything that we were talking about. I was trying to make it someone else's song of like, well, this is how podcasts should be. And this is what the people who are really good at it do. But it's like, okay, what is the most easy way for me right now? And I'm not saying that in 2 months' time I'm going to have some cool fucking music at the start. I don't know what it's going to sound like, but it might happen. But right now that was getting in the way of me doing it. And what else was in the way? Okay, well, I think I need to commit to weekly episodes. Why? Because people do that. Why? And it was just like getting really clear on what was actually going to work for me and going and removing all the pressure and going, you just do you and you just let it take its own, like make its own stream instead of just trying to, I keep getting like the splashing water
Yeah.
or like trying to make it do something that I want it to do because I've seen other people's streams move like that.
Yeah.
Just like let it flow as it's meant to flow.
Yes. There's a really cool way that people can self-reflect with what you just said, picking up on little bits of language. Like when you're saying, I need this, I need that. Like, first of all, you just get the opportunity to be yourself. You don't actually need to do anything. We don't need anything to be ourselves. That is in that type of energy. And then noticing the language of, oh, I need this, or I have to do this, or I have to do that. Those are sort of like kind of like moral injunctions. They're comparisons to other people.
Yeah.
All the things where it's, I have to have this, I need this, and the foundational, it's a sense of loss. But that's just the sort of unconscious stuff. But if you're saying I have to have this, or I just need this, or I need this, you probably are just comparing yourself to someone, and just come back to what would you love and just start from there. And I'm guessing for you You would just love to yap.
Professional yapper,
Yeah.
which I didn't realize.
And starting with what you'd love to do, and then what is the most efficient, shortest route in terms of just literally what's the next step? Okay, well, just speaking. What's the next most immediate step? Recording it on a microphone.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be anything more than that. So starting from where you love and walking from there, as opposed to having all these different sort of like goalposts that you have to hit to be yourself, to then do the thing. Reflecting on that language, yeah. If you're ever saying the need tos, have tos, or shoulds, I should. I mean, that's the biggest.
Biggest. Remove it from your vocab. I went to say vocabulary, and then I was like, I'm gonna fuck this up. Just shorten it.
Yeah, let it be feedback. Delete it or let it be feedback.
Like, where am I moving from a place of should? Because that's a big thing.
Yeah. Just seeing it and going, okay, who am I comparing myself to in that moment? I'm comparing myself to X, Y, Z. What are you comparing? What do you see in them that you don't see in you? Because now there's a sense of loss. You think you lack something that they have, or they have like more skill, or they have a bigger audience. And find out specifically, keep digging specifically what it is, find out where you've got it in your own forms. And when you find it, then you're going to be acting without having to compare to that. And it means you'll just be able to be yourself without the brain noise of trying to fucking fuck yourself up, be someone else.
I feel like that's...
You're not going to be able to be them.
So you might as well be you.
And then you're struggling to be yourself, so...
And then you're just like in this weird limbo of not really a person. Because you're like half taking from them and half taking from you. It's just like, just fucking be yourself.
Well, you don't get to fully appreciate your song. Like if I'm comparing my song to someone else's and theirs is in a different key, mine's in A minor, theirs is in E minor, then it's going to sound so dissonant as well, even if I grab those parts. And I'm grabbing all these parts that are all in different keys and they're supposedly the best things. Why does my song sound so fucking shit? Why is it so hard to play? Why does it feel so unnatural? Not my song.
I fucking love that. I feel like that's a good place to finish. Thank you so much. Let's do this again.
I love it. Thank you so much.